Welcome to Everything But the Kitchen Dink, the podcast where we discuss all things pickleball with your hosts, Rob and Andy.
Welcome back, everybody, to Everything But the Kitchen Dink.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited. Again.
Yes, we have the legend, that is Karen Mitchell, Chair of Pickleball England. We're so happy to have you back on, Karen. It's been a while. It's been 8 months, believe it or not, since we've had you on.
I can't believe that. That's amazing. It feels like
twice in case I missed one, but no, it's definitely been 8 months.
Right.
But
wow. A lot to catch up on there.
We've got a lot to catch up on. So I think, well, we touched on it before we came on live about the Nationals, because we didn't really touch base after that, did we? So
no, you mean the Open?
No, we did. Did we not talk after the Open?
No, I think we've spoken after the Open.
Really?
We haven't done a podcast since the Open. Of course, I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I think it's more the National. Well, the Open, I think we did discuss, but let's talk about the Nationals and how you thought that went, and plans moving forward for that as well, because obviously pickleball's growing exponentially. So, you know, are there plans to move from Bolton? Are we going to have qualifiers?
Well, I think we're jumping all over the place.
I'm all over the place.
That's made me realise that obviously when we were at the Open, obviously it was a phenomenal. Well, let me start. It's the Guinness. It was an amazing event. But I think at the time we were discussing the possibility of having. Well, you were coming to the end of the contract at Telford, and this is how I realised we haven't spoken since then. So, can you give us any insight? Obviously, with it being August, are you any further what's happening with the English Open?
So, the English Open, we are currently looking. We were looking at 3 venues. We've now got that down to 2.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you an exclusive because if I do, then if we do, any negotiations could actually be impacted. So we're down to 2 venues, and I'm really hoping that we can actually make an announcement sometime in January, mid-January is what we're looking for. So, but you're right. We need a plan for the English Open because, we couldn't get any more than 40 courts, or at least we thought we couldn't get any more than 40 courts in at Telford. And we also have got, some grand plans of how we want to extend the event as well. So, just hold your powder dry for a little bit longer and we'll make the announcement. And if I can, I'll give you the heads up before the announcement's made. All right.
Okay, that'd be great. So you can't give us any clues then. Is it going to be Midlands area or?
Well, the 2 venues. I will. Maybe I can disclose that. I've not asked anyone's permission, but we are currently looking at the NEC and Telford. Telford have come up with a plan that would enable us to have more courts. And the NEC is obviously a rather large venue in the West Midlands. The issue with the NEC, though, is flooring, but the NEC think they've come up with a plan to address the flooring. So we now need to really firm up on both those 2 plans, the flooring plan for the NEC and the number of extra courts for Telford before we can make a final decision. Of course, we need to see the final numbers as well to make sure that we make the right financial decision as well.
So is it fair to say they're both fighting over you?
Of course, everyone's fighting for us.
What a nice feeling.
If you hadn't heard, pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. And,
Well, we'll get on to that, yeah.
So just while we're talking about that, obviously I led in with the question about the Nationals as well, because Bolton surely now has become, in my opinion, obsolete for pickleball because of the size of it. Will we still be at Bolton for the Nationals, do you think, or will that be moved as well?
Well, we've tentatively got a booking. We've got a booking with Bolton for the same time next year, but that plan is predicated on getting some regional qualifiers in place. If we find that that actually proves to be difficult, then we may have to rethink. So, you know, I can't any exclusives here either, because all plans are up in the air until we can really solidify things. I just had a meeting today, Trevor, talking about the potential venues for the qualifiers, but of course they need to have availability. So, you know, we need to get that locked in as quickly as possible. You know, and the reason why we've got this problem is that, you know, the Nationals was oversubscribed. 1,375 people wanted to be at the Nationals. And you're right, it's that the venue can't deal with anymore, and we don't want to have to reduce the number of people that can compete for the Nationals. So we're thinking regional qualifiers and you qualify and get, like in the States they call it a golden ticket, and then you have a bit of a lottery after that, and that's probably the way we're thinking.
Any wild cards going?
Well, the lottery, that's a wild card, right? So
yeah, sort of.
We're actually working on a number of things at the same time. I don't want you to think that you know, we're not organized because we haven't booked all these things. What we also need to actually do is make sure that we can upgrade our tournament registration, and also, you know, make some changes to our tournament software. And so some of our decisions will be guided by what we can actually accomplish, right? So those two things have got to get firmed up together, and then we can finalize everything.
Well, I
but
mean,
again, we'd like to get the dates in the diary as quickly as possible, so that everyone knows the dates to save.
I mean, the two things that really came out of the Nationals were obviously the registration and people missing out. But was that something that you were just caught out by? The demand was so high.
Yeah, I mean, we had the prior year high demand. We had over 1,000, I think it was 1,000. In fact, in the chart I had last night for the AGM, it was 1,111. So we knew it was popular, but we didn't really anticipate that everyone would be fast on the finger quite as much as they were. I mean, first, it was literally virtually sold out in some categories within the 15 minutes, which, you know, beggars belief, right? But it shows that everyone knows this is a really serious, legitimate tournament that you want to be at, and to be able to call yourself a national champion at your level is, you know, something really quite special. The other thing is, because I don't know if you guys, I can't remember, I thought I saw you there, but maybe I didn't. The atmosphere at the English Nationals is amazing. You know, it's if the English Open, you know, it's there's still pulse about it, and a real excitement about it. It's got a vibe, a real vibe. The Nationals is much more chilled. It's still exciting, but much more chilled. It's and it's a lovely atmosphere. And to be fair, because of that atmosphere, I would like the finals to be at the Bolton Arena, but I'm not the only person that makes the decision. So that's my vote. But you know, who knows? You'll see how it goes.
I know the year before we touched on the idea of qualification. I remember we had a little discussion, and then obviously when with the whole issue of people not being able to get in with their partner and things like that, that obviously brought the same discussion more to the forefront, almost as a necessity. However, talking from myself and also feedback, because everybody was talking about qualification that weekend, it horrifies me, and it's not about me, because you know, the thought of I don't know how the qualification would work, but the thought of maybe having a bad day and not being able to compete would be.
You worry too much.
No, but I'm talking, you know, I feel like I'm not just talking for me. I think it would be a shame to have people excluded. However, I don't know how the qualifiers would take shape, you know, or if it was down to putting your name out of a hat and you didn't get in, you know, is there any other alternative?
No. It wouldn't be like that. The way that we're thinking about it right now is that we would have these regional qualifiers, and the number of spaces at the finals that the regional qualifiers would allow is going to be represented by the number of players in the regions that are at those qualifiers. Right, that's one thing. The next thing is that you would actually have a full tournament in the regional qualifiers, including a medal at the end of it. But if you got through to a certain round, then you will have qualified for the finals. That shows that you are already within your region performing above average of everybody else, right? Because you're getting through to whether it be quarterfinals, semi-finals, and some of this is number crunching as well, about how many in each category we can put through. So, you know, we've got quite a lot of work to do on that, but I want to reassure you that it's not going to be first out of the hat or anything. The other thing is, even with all of that, not everyone can make a regional qualifier, so we need to have some wild card or lottery or whatever, and we haven't figured out what that looks like yet anyway. And given that we're talking about finals in probably the end of October, 1st of November, I think we've got a little bit of time to do that yet.
Yeah, you've got plenty of
now,
time.
the other thing I wanted to say, though, is about the partner piece. We now have PickleBook, and events have started to be put onto PickleBook. And that will actually enable us to capture partner names upon registration. Everyone at Nationals has to be a Pickleball England member, so they'll be in PickleBook. So as long as the name and email address you put for your partner matches up with somebody in our database, you'll be able to enter your partner's name up front. The system will then look and match them, and you're in. If you haven't got a partner, then you go into the partner dating service, as we call it, and then you get your partner and you're in. So long-standing partnerships will be able to play with each other.
Okay. Now, seeing as though you brought up PickleBook, we were going to discuss it later in the podcast, but seeing as though you've touched on it now, for people out there that are listeners as well that don't understand what PickleBook is or haven't used it, haven't got to grips with it, can you explain a bit to everybody what PickleBook does and how it can be used moving forward for clubs and for individuals?
So PickleBook is a system, or it's a system that is going to connect the pickleball community. Basically, we've chosen to work with PickleBook because they were willing to build the capability that we were already leveraging in other systems that we had, so that it would be, you know, easy for us to migrate to PickleBook. Frank Arico, who built our registration system and also our membership system we had, he was amazing working on the data cleansing and the migration of our data to PickleBook, so that all people had to do was to put their email address in, press the forgotten password. We would then send them a password link, and they could be up and running on PickleBook. The idea around PickleBook is that we will have as much going on in there as we can, so that our relationship with players is through PickleBook. So you go in there to manage your profile information, you go in there to enter events, you go in there to link your Duper ID, you go in there to enter training, to go onto a PLC or education or whatever, and as many ideas as we have for what we can do in PickleBook. That's what we want to do. You know, I have a vision for the junior development pathway to be in there, that there'll be a commercial member value proposition in there, that we'll have polls and surveys, all these sort of things I imagine being in PickleBook, including the ability to communicate with members as well. At the moment, we do a monthly email that is one size fits all to everyone. I'd really like to be able to do communications to members that actually has information based on what they are interested in. So your recreational player that doesn't want to enter tournaments, we don't actually include that information linked on the website or whatever, but we talk to them about festivals or, you know, things that might be, you know, important to them. Does that give you?
Yeah, are they part of pickleballing, and are they going to branch out and do this in other countries to bring countries together?
So the original, one of the things I didn't say was that obviously the club locator's in there as well. And the original driver of going into PickleBook was the fact that our club locator was really, really difficult for us to manage. The volume of clubs was really going up, and it was such a manual process that it was taking somebody time to set up. Everyone's volunteer, right? By putting it onto PickleBook, clubs registered and the information was automatically promoted to the club locator. And now they want to make changes to their sessions and things like that. It's automatically done with them doing it themselves. So it's self-servicing and it's immediate. From my perspective, that's fantastic. And, you know, we've also seen that the volume of clubs has increased and that they really are using the club locator, say when they've got special sessions on and things like that. You know, from my perspective, from a reducing workload, it's been amazing. But you know, for the information to be available immediately, it's much better for players and for clubs.
So can we use this to contact other clubs or other members and sort of almost like its own social network?
It's not got that yet, but I can see that there would be, with permissions, you know, the ability for contact. So for instance, if you are registered for an event and, you know, everybody else in there has said, yes, I'd like to be in a WhatsApp group or whatever, you know, WhatsApp type group, that then puts you all into that cohort to be able to communicate with each other around that event or whatever. If you want to then continue, you give each other your details and you can talk to each other there. But yeah, I do really a connected community. That's the vision.
I had to have a play around with it because I had to put our club on there because you have to register your players to be in the Northern League.
Yes.
So is that going to be something that's going to happen for other tournaments as well? And also I noticed there are 3 levels on there. One which is a free sort of entry level and then 2 paid levels as well. Is that going to stay like that or is that going to be changed at all?
So to answer the first question, will other events be on there? Yes. So you're right, the team league went on in September, and on Saturday night, doubles league capability was implemented. So from January, many of the doubles leagues that go on around the country will be both registration on PickleBook and the management of the league as well, because there's, you know, a number of divisions, etc. And that's automating a lot of things as well. And it will also automate putting the results onto the website and sending the results to Duper.
Right.
We won't send them the next day because sometimes the result has been put in wrong. You know, can't read the writing on the sheet or whatever. And, you know, once you've saved it, you can't edit it. So we'll give it a few days to make sure people have had a chance to look at it on the website, no problems. And then we'll submit them to Duper. But again, frictionless so that you don't have to do these things or somebody else doesn't have to do these things, which is fantastic. So yes, more things on PickleBook. That was the first question. What was the second question?
The second question was about the payment scheme on there.
Oh, right.
Different tiers.
Right. So we're a not-for-profit organisation, and we have been powered by volunteers for, you know, many years. Some of those volunteers have moved on, others are coming in. But what we were doing in the past few years is not sustainable, certainly not for me. And we need to start hiring people. And I think we've had that conversation before. So our first hire is going to be Trevor Robinson. He's been a contractor for us, but he's going to go permanent from January this month. And we're looking to hire an events manager, and eventually, hopefully, we'll have enough income coming in that we can hire other people. That way, the volunteers that we have, they've got a certain number of hours that they can contain their volunteering to, and it's manageable for everyone. So the reason for having the club tiers is to create an income stream, but to give back some benefits as well. So, one of the benefits, for instance, that we identified is that Baseline Club can have one team in the English Pickleball League, but bigger clubs, if they want more than one club team, more than one team in the league, they need to either pay half court or full court membership. And we've got a list of benefits that you get. Now, the full court one, you can enter multiple teams, but you also get public liability insurance for the club as well, and various other benefits. So we are going to continue in this vein, and we will probably introduce an individual value proposition as well. We'll always have a free one, but we will look to have some benefits so that we can charge a fee to individuals as well.
Okay,
Right.
that's interesting. Go
on. Well, I mean, obviously, I've always been conscious. I know we've had the discussion before about people saying, "Oh, this event's too expensive," but I'm always conscious that Pickleball England isn't making enough money. Do you see, do you see a point where you can? I know in the past you've said, "Well, it didn't make as much as we like," and it seems like if, let's say, for example, you went to the NEC for the Open, and instead of having maybe a dozen vendors there selling their wares, having sort of, even like a pickle fest or something where there's a whole thing dedicated, do you see a time where Pickleball England isn't worrying about the money or getting more money in, and is more flush? Because ultimately that will help everybody in the game.
So I do foresee that, and in fact, at last night's AGM, Martin went through a financial review. 2024, we actually did make a slight loss. It's really a notional one. It was we managed finances, and then depreciation had to be put in, so that created a bit of a minor loss, but nothing to write home about. This year, though, or last year rather, 2025, we are definitely making a profit. How much that profit is, because we're in that year-end process, is not fully fleshed out. It's somewhere between, let's say, 30,000 and 100,000, somewhere in that region. We're just doing all the accruals and making sure that we get the income from the sponsorship and pay all our bills that are still, a few that have come in late, etc., to see the final number. But we will have made a reasonable profit, which will give us the confidence to hire Trevor, as we're doing, and to hire an events manager as well. So that piece, and as we get more confidence because of the other things that we're doing, we'll be able to hire other people as well. What I'm very excited about is the fact that we've just completed the restructure of the organisation. It was all finalised last night at the AGM, and we've got an injection of 3 new national directors, and we have got a new regional steering committee as well, which is where the regional directors will be meeting. So this means that there can be board meetings that are dedicated to national issues, and there'll be committee meetings dedicated to regional issues, and then we'll make sure that we've got some opportunities to cross-pollinate the two to make sure they're all in sync, really. But some of the people that were voted in have got some really great skills that I'm really looking forward to tapping into, and also, you know, new enthusiasm, new what's the word I'm looking for? Bright, shiny people that are coming in, all enthusiastic about. Now, that's not to disparage the people that are going out, because, oh my God, they've put so much in, right? And, you know, we're very grateful. In fact, the one thing I will say is that the people who are moving on, they're staying to do bits, you know, in different guises. They're just not on the board. And the people who didn't get voted in, who were great candidates, every single one of them that I've spoken to, I think there's one I still haven't managed to connect with, but every single one says that they want to do something, even if they're not voted into the board or the regional committee. So what a situation to be in. It's really great situation.
I know we haven't spoken for about 8 months, but can you give us some indication of the growth of pickleball and the numbers that are now registered on Pickleball England as well?
Yeah, well, just before the year end, we announced the 16,000 members. And in fact, as at today's date, I'll quickly go in there, go into PickleBook and tell you, as at this moment, actually, it's now 16,153 members and 799 clubs. Wow. And those clubs have got venues associated with them, and that's 1,147 venues. Now, do you remember me saying I was excited about PickleBook because I'll have data at my fingertips?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. You have that data's amazing, but I often, you know, when I hear, you know, there's 500,000 people playing padel in this country, and you know, there must be more players. Do you have a handle on what the figure might be for pickleball?
Yeah, there's about 55,000. About 55,000 players in this country, and that number I'm very confident about, because the Sport England Active Live survey results showed that between 2023 and 2024, November both years, they did a survey, and 41,000 plus people that they had played pickleball in the last 28 days. Right. So, you know, the fact that it was 41,000 between 2023 and 2024, we're estimating 55,000, which is an extrapolation of our membership and what the clubs tell us they've got in terms of members. That's how we get to that extrapolation. You know, 55,000's a good number. Now, I just want to put the padel numbers into perspective.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about padel as well, but go on.
Because padel and tennis, they don't report the numbers the same way that we do.
They make them up.
I'm not saying they make them up.
Because every time I see a newspaper article, it says there's 500,000 people playing padel in England, and it's just that it has to be a load of rubbish.
Well, it is, because the number of courts that they've got means that you couldn't have 500,000 players playing padel, right? But what they're reporting on, and I wish they'd report it slightly so it's more meaningful, I think they're reporting on bookings on courts. So every session has got 4 people on court, right? And I think they're reporting on the sessions, because they get data about the bookings. That's what they get. So unless they've got a membership database of 500,000, that's what they're reporting on, I think.
Okay, before we move on to the discussion about padel, which we will do in a minute, I wanted to talk to you about something else, which was venues. Now, I've seen a couple of venues opening. There's one in Sheffield, there's one in York. Do you have any more information you could give us about any more venues that are opening? Now, I know there's a couple. There's one actually. There's a padel club opening around the corner from my house, and they're putting a couple of pickleball courts in there as well. And it seems to me that most places that are putting paddle in are now tending to put 1 or 2 pickleball courts in. But do you know of any more venues that are opening around the country that we don't know about?
Do you see a speed up of it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I do. Last night's AGM, I shared a slide, which I'm looking at right now. Am I allowed to share my screen? Probably
yeah.
not. Anyway.
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay, let me share see if I can share my screen.
Okay.
How do I do that though? I don't know how to do it here. Or maybe it's present. Maybe it's present.
Yeah, it is. Although I've never done it on.
No, I'm not too sure myself on this, but don't worry if you can't.
Yeah,
We're not selling the pickleball for old people myth here.
I'm going to have to talk to it. So in 2023, there was 1 pickleball facility, which was Telford. In 2024, that became 3 because we had 1 in Doncaster with 3 courts, and there was PicklePad in Mudeford in Dorset opened up. In 2025, 7 facilities. So that's the 4 we've talked about, plus another 3, which is Peak Pickleball in Sheffield, Pickleball Shed in York, and in December, Courtside opened at Stourbridge in the West Midlands.
Right, okay.
And then in 2026, we expect that to get it even bigger because we've got We Do Pickleball in Kingston upon Hull opening up. Hurlands are opening up in Farnham, and Dinks Pickleball is opening up in Eastleigh in Hampshire. They're the ones that have got anticipated opening dates. Now,
Manchester?
No, not at the moment. There is one that opened up in fact, I just realised I've used long slide.
Oh, Blackburn. There's Blackburn, isn't there?
There's one. No, there's one in Staffordshire that has opened just before Christmas.
Right.
But there's others in Cotswolds that are being planned. Greenwich, Thornbury in Gloucestershire, I'm aware of, and then a really exciting one that Richard Wise announced just before Christmas, which is in Carlisle. They're planning 10 courts in Carlisle.
How's Carlisle?
Let me Google.
It's quite far for you, but you know,
everything's quite far for us.
You think we live out in the sticks here?
No.
The Lake District is a wonderful location for holidays and stuff like that. So,
well, I've got a motorhome now, so I can go and stay in the Lake District and go and play pickleball. Sounds great.
There you go. Yeah, but I'm not sure that I know about all the ones that are planned. So I actually think that 2026 there'll be far more than I've just gone through opening up, and I think last year was the tipping point, and 2026 is when it's all going to start exploding. So watch this space.
I mean, we've noticed a couple a bit more local to us, still, you know, not closer than we'd like. However, this is one thing I think goes against pickleball is the beauty of pickleball is that you can pick up and play in so many places, whereas padel, you have to have a purpose-built facility. And I think obviously that's meant that a lot more padel facilities have been built because you need them to play, whereas you don't with pickleball. However, you know, I still get people telling me pickleball is an old person sport because padel has got that sort of
trendy feel.
Yeah. And it really, really annoys me because they have no idea what they're talking about.
That means they're calling you old, right?
Yeah.
Well, I am old, but the fact is, when I go there and I get beaten by a 19-year-old banger at Telford, these people have no idea how many young people are coming in or playing or selling out the events. However, the perception, I think our benefit of being so flexible, we can play in so many places, is going against us or has gone against us. It's great that these centres are opening, but it could be another 5-10 years before they're everywhere because I guess there isn't the urgency for them. But that leads on to the fact that we're losing players to paddle. We've had experience of that. I don't know if you have. And that's because they can just go down the road and play paddle. They don't have to travel an hour. And they can play on the same surface every time. So we play on wood for our local court. Then we go to the Open and we're playing on a completely different surface against players who are playing on that surface every week because they live near Telford.
What's your question?
My question is that, I mean, obviously you can tell I'm frustrated by it, but it's not me. We've had feedback from people who have stopped playing.
I think the question is, do you think we're losing the race and the battle with paddle?
No, I don't. But why does it have to be a competition? It really doesn't.
No,
you know?
It's not.
It's not. But people outside of pickleball think it's a competition, and whenever somebody tries to put down pickleball to me, I just say to them, "Well, it's great. We're all exercising."
And that is exactly it.
I feel like when we get a text from someone to say they're not coming to the club anymore because they can go and play paddle every morning before work.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's just one person.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that's just one person that we know of, and I'm just, obviously our growth is behind paddle, and I'm not worried about that. I don't get the whole paddle thing. I don't see why it would be any different to pickleball, other than it has celebrity perception. But
I was on a 5 Live interview Friday morning. So It was New Year's Day, that wasn't it? It was ridiculous time, 7:30. Anyone who knows me knows that I do not normally wake up at 7:30 even. So for me to be on a radio interview for 5 Live then was something special. But the question was asked to me, who looks down on who between tennis, paddle and pickleball? And, my answer was, well, I guess, tennis looks down on paddle and pickleball because it's the bigger court, and therefore they think you're going to get a more strenuous workout, and that paddle might look down on pickleball because our court is a badminton sized court. But at the end of the day, it's about what the individual player gets out of it, and the fact that everyone
I understand that
thing, really. So,
but why are people still coming to me and trying to rile me to put down pickleball? Why do they care so much?
The other person on this interview was Josh Bright, who won the English Nationals with Louis Leville, and his response was that he was playing tennis and paddle, but he gets so much joy out of pickleball that he wants to play more and more because it's more strategic, and he really sold it from a younger person's perspective. So it was really nice to have him on that interview. And the other piece that I'd like to say as well is that our age is trending down. Now, bearing in mind that, we started in 2019 and it was, 60 something, I think, on the average age. We're now down to 53. And it's this year, we appointed Scott to be Director of Schools Development the back end of last year. It's this year we're going to focus on schools, universities and a youth pathway, which is really what will help to bring the average age down. And to your point about someone can go and play paddle on their way to work, that's because it's a paddle facility that's open all day. That's what we need. We need more facilities that you can play pickleball all day long. At the moment, everything's club centric, and it's the hours that people can hire courts at leisure facilities. And I did a projection on the number of pickleball players to prove that we can get to 1 million by 2030. I also did a projection, which I didn't share last night, about venues. And it's going to take a mix of pickleball venues, leisure clubs, and other facilities and outdoor courts and all the rest of it to help us get to that 1 million players. Because if you've got that volume of players, it's going to be tight in terms of getting court time and things like that. So it's going to take a mountain of work, and I don't deny it's going to be hard work, but I think that the will of the people who want to open facilities and proof that facilities can make money. That's why Mike Lynch's Telford facility was so vital to this equation. You know, he made money within 3 months. That gave other people confidence. Seminars that we ran at the English Open last year compared and contrasted Mike's business model with what Herland's business model will be, and then the APP shared what was happening in the US to give other people ideas of what you can actually do in terms of range of facilities and inspire them to open up. And as I say, this year will be the year we'll see more and more. What we really want is those facilities to be wildly successful so that other people will want to open more, get investors into this, into the equation as well. Because at the moment, a lot of these people are doing it on their own backs, or friends and family funding and stuff like that. Investors in as well.
I mean, that's what I was going to come on to, the fact that obviously now you're well down the way of, you know, being the national governing body. Do you see a time where you will be able to facilitate financial help, loans, or, you know, anything like that will speed up the process of facilities?
I'm not sure that that's the role of a national governing body, to be honest. So I think our role is to make sure that that we are helping to create the demand that will get them to be successful, to help with knowledge, information, you know, sharing information and knowledge, you know, making sure that the ecosystem can keep up with it all, you know, all things like that. I think that's what our role is. I'm not sure that Pickleball England should be loaning money to get things off the ground. But
no, I don't mean loaning, but maybe providing avenues for people to, you know, you might have
introduction
or introduction to investors, you know, that kind of thing.
So that sort of thing. And in fact, we have done that. I'm not going into any details, but we have made introductions that has helped that for other facilities. So, you know, that is definitely part of our remit, I think. So, you know, there's lots of ifs, buts, and maybes on all of this, but I am confident that we're going to see many, many more facilities opening this year and next year and beyond. So it's going to be exciting, and I hope that we, you know, just keep everyone along on the ride, and that that momentum and the gathering the moss to get more and more players, so that we reach the 1 million players by 2030. Just out of interest, you might want to know that I was projecting that with the current run rate, it would be the first half of 2031 that we would get to 1 million. But that was just with the current run rate. It wasn't, you know, factoring in other things, you know. So, you know, with us putting in more programs like the schools and the universities and things like that, I actually think we could make that in 2030.
I'll be 59. Still a good age.
Still young.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, we've had so much, you know, thousands and thousands of people asking us, you know, for a facility in Manchester. And I think, you know, that's got to be, it's a shame we've missed the AGM, because that's got to be Pickleball England's main priority for 2026, to get a facility in Manchester, particularly North Manchester. You know, I'm just, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just, you know, providing the feedback that we've received. But anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what I'm going to say to that, really.
Yeah.
I think you know by now, we're very impatient.
Yeah, I hope there's an investor out there that hears you, that there are thousands of people clamoring to play pickleball in North Manchester to get a venue.
As I said,
the good news is, though, it's cheaper to get facilities in the north than it is in the south.
Yes.
So, you know, more viable, I think, than potentially in the south of England, although, you know, there's going to be some exciting stuff coming in the south as well. But it's going to be more expensive to get those up and running, I think.
Any potential of some of the big American franchise companies coming over? Has there been any contact there?
Ace Pickleball reached out a couple of years ago, but I think that they felt after all the conversations that we weren't quite ready for them. So I would be surprised if they don't come back for this year. But I know that some of the ones that are being implemented at the moment, they're looking to get franchises out of theirs. So, you know, that could help, having a homegrown franchise too.
Just going back to the paddle thing, I don't want to dwell on it, but I find that
dwell away.
I find that most people who play paddle have never played pickleball, and I feel that if they would play pickleball, they'd absolutely love it and realize that pickleball is a fun game as well as paddle. But it's the other way around, unfortunately, where people who have played pickleball are now trying paddle because it's everywhere. But I just feel it's a shame, because I think the people that would, you know, they're playing paddle, if they played pickleball, you know, they'd absolutely love the game.
You worry too much.
So I agree with you that there's a huge opportunity to tap into paddle players to get them to try pickleball. And we have talked about potentially trying to do some fun events whereby, you know, it's pickleball versus paddle. Pickleball players try paddle and paddle players try pickleball, and see who wins at each, right? So, you know, watch this space. Maybe that'll happen this year.
I must say that I have played paddle 3 times, and I remember when I first started to play pickleball, and it was just so easy to pick it up and play. It's completely different with paddle. It's not a game that you can just, yes, you can hit it over the net, but it's not a game that you can pick up and play straight away, because there's a lot more with the glass and the. So I do feel that pickleball is a lot more inclusive, where it becomes fun to play very quickly, and also the social side of pickleball.
Well, people don't understand that.
Yeah, the social side. You know, you can't even explain that to people. It's an incredible part of pickleball, and we've loved.
Yeah.
You know, I was saying to Andy the other day, you know, I'm not bothered about entering a tournament just to play in the tournament, but I want to go because I want to see people at the tournament. You know,
I think you had a couple of Guinness at that point.
But I think that's what pickleball has over paddle.
Yeah, and people don't know that until they come in.
Yeah.
Even from the very first time I played pickleball, I got it straight away. You know, people were coming up to me afterwards. Are you coming again? Did you enjoy it? It was like nothing else. And we, I guess we just need to get the word out there. But is there anything from a celebrity angle? Because obviously you've got people on, you know, you've got, there's a famous comedian, what's his name? Jason Manford, who's massive on social media. Do we have anybody in the pipeline? I know we had Greg Rosetsky on board for that event, and we've got Gail Ems as well, who's probably, you know, the most famous person we've got. But is there anybody sniffing around?
Not that I am aware of. No.
That's your job.
We need that. I keep mentioning it, and you know.
Well, you keep saying you're going to talk to your clients to get them
Exactly.
I do, but you know, it's got to the point where I'm getting embarrassed. You know,
you need to get one footballer on board. That's all you need to do.
But they, you know, I either get, I've never heard.
Just get someone in his 60s.
I don't often hear, I've never heard of it anymore, but I get sort of a wry smile sometimes. You know,
I do know that there are a lot of celebrities that play on their home courts. Whether or not we can at some point tap into that, I don't know. I would far rather spend more time growing pickleball for people to get off the couch and do exercise and be part of the community and all the rest of it, than to chase after celebrities who I know can influence things, but you know, that's a lot of time and effort to run after them. And
no, I understand. It's just that if the perception can get changed, then it can sort of snowball things. Then you can get wealthy people involved in building, you know, facilities.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know, it lends that credibility that really we don't need, but we do need it for the people who don't know about pickleball.
If
What's
anyone listening to this podcast has a celebrity friend that plays pickleball, would be
Yes.
willing to be either a spokesperson or be part of something, to let me know. Aaron at
Definitely.
pickleballing.org would love to talk to you.
Fantastic. Have you got any visions for the next 12 months? Anything you want to share with us? Any insights or anything exciting happening behind the scenes that we don't know about?
Well, I think that the vision that we outlined yesterday for PickleBook is pretty exciting, you know, and getting all the tournament registration on there as well. And that's probably where we'll spend quite a bit of our effort, is getting the capability we've outlined onto PickleBook, so that people will be using it more frequently, and you know, they can see their scores on there and things like that, you know. So that's one strand. The other is expanding the nationals, so that we've got the regional qualifiers and having the national event. You know, we also know that people love competition, so trying to find a way to work with the other organizations that are putting on tournaments. Now we've got PickleBook, we need to put a value proposition to them so that they can leverage it as well, and that players have got the convenience of just using one source to register and things like that. So, you know, we'll be working on that. There was something that came into my head and I just it went out again. But more importantly, this is I did mention it earlier. This is where a vast amount of time will go in. It's the schools, universities, and youth development in 2026. Yeah, that is massive. And actually, although we will be working on those, I hope that, you know, people that we recruit as part of that will then be part of the ecosystem, and that, you know, the average age is going to be going down, and they'll be there at the competitions and, you know, things like that as well. So I think it's going to be very exciting.
Do you need more regional helpers? Because I know as big as Manchester is, I mean, at our club night, we get people traveling from an hour away. But we've only got Elaine, who covers the whole northwest area, and then I think she has an assistant. But it's not enough. It's too much for her.
I think there are others that help out with that as well.
But
I think there
do
are.
You need more volunteers? Do you need more boots on the ground?
We always need more volunteers. I know that Elaine has recruited a couple of people that are going to be doing pickleball leaders courses during 2026. I think Jane Bridge and Lindsay Hammond are going to be doing PLCs. And I know that there are several people who are working on the team leagues for the North as well. And yes, more volunteers, I'm sure Elaine would definitely appreciate. So Elaine at pickleballing.org, if you want to volunteer, is a good place to start with. In terms of regions, actually, one of the things we talked about last night on the AGM, at the back end of last year, Michael de Groot from the West Midlands and Rob Salmon from our county representative for Derbyshire, they worked on a template for a pilot for creating a county association. And the idea there is that you would have more than just a county rep then at the county level. You would have many people on a committee all pulling in the same direction for that county. It could do inter-county leagues and stuff like that. But more importantly, it would mean that there's more representation in the county. So that is something that we hope that pilot will be successfully introduced, that we can start replicating that towards the later part of the year in other counties as well. But again, it relies on volunteers, right?
Yeah. What's happening with the referee situation? Is that completely separate to you? How did you find the officiating at the major tournaments? Is it improving?
So the training of referees, we tap into the European Pickleball Federation to train referees. I did the L1 training last year. It's really quite intense in terms of you know, what you have to do. So it is a very good course. We leverage people who had been qualified last year at the English Open, and we also brought in US referees as well, and then the local referees getting mentored by the US referees helped them, so that when we did the English Nationals, we only brought one US head ref over, and everyone else was from the UK, and you know, they're getting seasoned and experience now, and you can see that repetitions, like when you're doing repetitions for shots, repetitions for refereeing is about your improvement as well, and they're doing a great job. And Kelly Dawson stepped up and coordinated the referees at the English Open. It was a bit of baptism by fire at the English Open, but at the English Nationals, she knew what she wanted to achieve. And, you know, it was flawless, really, the coordination of the referees at the English
Also,
Nationals.
court monitors was revolutionary.
You know what? Something we had a lot of problems at the Open that you put right in such a short amount of time. That was really good.
The court monitors, especially. That, I mean, everything was moving so quickly. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
but you know, the court monitors situation at the Open versus the Nationals, it's very different. We could do that at the Nationals because you could see both sides easily. You could keep an eye on it, right? And that's why. But Chris did the scheduling for the games, and when he'd heard the feedback for the Open, he did some of the scheduling at the Open as well. He decided that he wanted to change the way we did it, and he did all of the scheduling so that no one would interfere, and the result was very, very positive. And so I think we're going to replicate that at the Open, but we'll replicate understanding that we're not going to be able to see everything at the same time. So we'll probably have to have pods of court monitors.
I know, speaking of scheduling, I got a question in from somebody who should remain nameless. RR from Manchester, who said, well, I don't know if there's any, and I'm very conscious that it is such a hard task for you, but we do get this feedback a lot in the fact that I know we experienced it at the Nationals where that it flew by, it flowed so well, but then we had a 3-hour wait between the end of the group and the quarterfinals. Is there a way around it, or is that just nothing you can do? And you know, I understand the difficulty.
It's about the efficiency of court management, and we did get some feedback about that. So Chris is looking at that feedback, and he thinks he's got a plan to address that as well for the next time. But it's all about evolution and learning and listening, right? So the way that we planned that for Nationals, we thought it was a good thing that at least people knew they had a big window that they could do something, either have lunch, have a shower, whatever they wanted to do, and knew when they had to come back. We recognize now that people, we need a break so that we know who's going through, because it takes time to get that all layered up, but it doesn't have to be that long a break. So there will always be a gap, but it doesn't have to be that long, and that's what Chris will take a look at for the English Open.
I mean, we know it's the same for everybody, but we would definitely have won gold had we had a 3-hour break.
Well, you know, competitions is about resilience, and
and you know, we're far from resilient, two of us.
One last thing before we go: how's your pickleball? Are you still playing?
Oh, do you know what? I had been playing. Last year I had a New Year's resolution that I wanted to play at least a couple of times a week. It was going so well until November, and I was sick after the English National, so I missed a couple of weeks then. And then I played again, but in December something happened to my knee. It's not my actual knee, it's the ligament around it, which every now and again it just goes from underneath me. Which isn't really a good situation to be in. So I haven't been playing recently.
Fair enough.
Probably should get that checked out.
Yeah.
Well,
I will.
as usual, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you.
I mean, we
so
could
much.
talk for hours.
We could. We know you're busy, but thank you so much for coming on. And I'm
No,
sure
thank you
we'll
for inviting me.
very, very soon.
Really appreciate it. And if anybody
Thanks.
wants to ask you a question, get in touch. And if anybody wants to volunteer, please do.
Yeah.
Just contact.
Just give us the email again, Karen, just so people know.
Karen at picklebalengland.org.
Perfect.